Welcome to our fourth and final keynote with Shaun Galanos. Please say hello, Shaun.
Happy to be here, everybody. So glad that we're going to learn how to communicate our needs in a clear, loving way, and I'm honored to be here.
We're so incredibly happy to have you. I know it's 5:03 and we had a little bit of a technical challenge, but we're now on track. So the first thing I wanted to do was acknowledge how grateful I am to be living and working and playing on the traditional territories of the Wet'suwet'en and Lekwungen speaking peoples, the original caretakers of the land we call home here in Victoria. We're experiencing a crazy windstorm here in Victoria, unlike any I've experienced in the past 15 years that I've lived here. So if you hear wind noise, that's what's going on. But I'm going to be muting myself when I'm not talking so that you're not going to be distracted by the wind. And I'm just so incredibly honored to introduce Shaun as our keynote tonight to close our summit off. Shaun is a love coach, the host of the Love Drive podcast, and an online course creator. He teaches people intimacy and communication tools for better relationships and more love. He holds certifications in personal and professional coaching from Concordia University, rape crisis counseling from BAWAR in Oakland, California. I guess it's Bauer, you would pronounce
Baywar.
it. Baywar, sorry. And a bachelor's degree in interpersonal communication from UC Santa Barbara. When he's not teaching courses on intimacy and communication or recording his podcast, he's continuing to learn more about love, working on his relationship to his partner, and building community in Montreal. Tonight, Shaun's going to share his wisdom on how we can all communicate our needs in a clear, loving way. So thank you so much, Shaun, for being here and for sharing your so much wisdom.
I'm honored to be here. I want to start off by saying, if you are here live, and if you're watching the recording, first of all, this is a big step. It's a big step for you to have invested in yourself and in your future relationships. And it's beautiful to do this work. It's really beautiful to be able to do this work because everything that we've learned this month will pay dividends for the rest of your life in all of your relationships. It really, really will. If you're here live, I would love it if you could turn your camera on. It would help me feel so much more connected to you all. And I have some exercises here where it'll be really helpful for me to see some of your faces, and we're going to do some thumbs up, some thumbs down. So if you're willing to invite us into your bedroom, your living room, your car, wherever you are, it really makes a huge difference. And I love seeing all of your faces. Also, if you're here live, you can click on the gallery view and see the other faces of the people that are doing this with you. It's incredibly powerful for us to come together and learn how to communicate in a clear, loving way, how to make our relationships more rich and fulfilling. I'm going to switch between talking and sharing my screen because I have some slides for you, and I think it's really important to be able to see some of these concepts. And first of all, I just want to share with you and thank you for turning your cameras on. And if you don't feel comfortable doing it, it's totally fine. I already got 20 beautiful faces looking at me, and it's a gift. So thank you so much. Which, by the way, that's me showing you how to make a request in a clear, loving way without even talking to you about what my needs are, but making a specific action request that was for the most part easy to meet. And I'll show you more of that as we move along. So this is what we're going to do in our time together. We are going to do this. We are going to learn that you need courage to speak up. If you want to build a love life that you are proud of, it will require courage. We will make your needs easy to meet, right? So we're going to identify what is the need, and then we're going to set your loved ones up for success. We're literally going to give them the answers to meeting your needs. And then finally, we're going to craft requests for those needs using clear, loving language. And I will share with you so many scripts that you can use. And I'm also going to share these slides with you, and you can take them home. You're already home, but you can have them. And you can create your clear, loving requests using these scripts, and you can adapt them. So that's what we're going to be covering. Sound good? Can I get a thumbs? Who's gonna do this to that? No, this doesn't. I don't want to do this. If it's a thumbs down, you're in the wrong place. I'm glad it's all thumbs up. So, number one, I need to highlight this. Having needs doesn't make you clingy, lonely, desperate, or needy. It just makes you human. That's my dog drinking water, by the way, if you can hear that. He's like a complete water fiend, only at night. At night, he drinks 2 bowls of water. During the day, no water. Having needs doesn't make you clingy. It doesn't make you desperate or lonely. It just makes you human. It's literally a characteristic of being a human, is to have needs. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to have needs. Our body is constantly giving us information that we need something. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later, right? When you're hungry, you get a signal that your body needs food. When you're thirsty, you get a signal. When you're angry, you get a signal. And we're going to learn a little bit on tapping into what is your body telling you that you need. Because before we can make these requests, we have to figure out what is the need. So there's nothing needy about being human. It's perfectly normal, natural, and beautiful. And other humans can help us meet some of those needs. They really can. And for the most part, your loved ones do want to meet your needs. They do. I really want you to trust that your loved ones want to meet your needs. Your friends, your lovers, your family, your colleagues, your coworkers, for the most part, as long as your needs don't conflict with theirs in a serious way, people do want to be helpful, right? Consider a friend asking you for help. Do you immediately go, oh, they're so clingy and needy? Or do you go, oh, I would love to help my friend? Most people want to help. And it's hard to ask for needs for a variety of different reasons. And we're going to explore that a little bit. So similarly, you have one job in life, and it's to build the life of your dreams. And no one else knows what you want quite like you do. They don't. People don't know what you need. It would be great if everyone could anticipate our needs. I mean, it would, over time, people can learn what you need and they can start to anticipate your needs. But for the most part, people don't know because they're not mind readers. They're not mind readers. And it's really great when someone can anticipate your needs. But for the most part, if you want something, if you need something, you're going to have to speak up for it. So last year, I almost lost the love of my life. She was in Brazil doing a retreat. And I don't know why sometimes when people come out of retreats, they just feel like blowing everything up. Or making drastic changes, right? Because they have these epiphanies. And we had been kind of struggling with commitment for a while, me wanting more commitment, her wanting more freedom. And she calls me coming out of this retreat and she goes, I had an epiphany. I am so ready to be your partner. I'm ready to commit to you. Finally. And I'm jumping for joy. I'm doing backflips. I'm so excited that finally she's come around. 10 seconds later, she goes, and I also realized that I want to be in a relationship with my ex at the same time. And this was devastating, devastating. I just can't even share with you how hard that was to hear. And I took a few days to meditate on this. I felt anxious. I felt disappointed. I felt sad. I felt a lot. My body was telling me a lot. It was giving me a lot of information about what I needed. And after 2 days, I called and I said, baby, I love you. And I would do almost anything to be with you. And if you want to be in a relationship with your ex, I totally support you. I want that for you. And I'm going to remove myself from this relationship. And that's what it takes sometimes. It takes that much for you to not abandon yourself, for you to speak up for what you want, for you to draw a line in the sand. Now, if you're here live, can you tell me what need was I expressing? Just type anything that comes to mind, one word. What could have I been expressing by saying, I want you to have what you want, and I'm going to take myself out of this relationship? Yeah, monogamy. Anything else? Boundaries. Yep. Self-love, love.
Yeah, your love for yourself.
Love, respect, self-worth, true love, appreciation. Yeah, also safety, commitment. For me, it was a lot about safety. I wanted to feel safe to explore intimacy with her. And I couldn't do that because I listened to my body, right? My body was saying, no, don't do this. And so I knew that I was 100% responsible for building this kind of love, this kind of life, and to not abandon myself. And I did it in a clear, loving way. I didn't say, you need to choose me. You need to commit to me. You need to be exclusive to me. I said, I hear you, and this is what I want. And if I can't get that, I'm going to step away. So, a question for you. What prevents you from asking for what you want or need? Type it in. This is, by the way, if you haven't figured out, a very interactive keynote. And if we were doing this live, I'd be asking you these questions and I'd be putting you more on the spot. So, what prevents you from asking for what you want? Rejection, fear, fear, rejection, fear, being selfish, fear, fear. More fear, fear of rejection. So I just want to highlight how common it is to be scared, how common it is to be scared about this stuff. Another one said not knowing ourselves well enough. Totally valid, not knowing what you need. But for the most part, fear keeps us small. It keeps us small. And I don't want that for you, right? Oh, as an aside, the relationship continued in a monogamous way because I was able to ask for what I wanted. And I was scared that if I asked for what I wanted, she might say no. And that's a totally valid fear, right? Here's the thing, consider this. The answer to any unasked question is always no. When you don't ask, you don't get. Wayne Gretzky, I don't even watch sports. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? In today's language, shoot your shot, right? You don't, I really don't like that expression, but like, I get it. You don't get what you don't ask for. You really don't get what you don't ask for in life. Now and then, you might. It might work out that way. If you wait long enough, if you accommodate enough, it might go in your favor. But the better solution is to identify what you need and then to ask for it. And I love rejection. I love rejection because it's liberating. The more you ask, the more you get. The more you ask, the more you get. Also, the more rejection you get. It's a simple math problem. And I don't know what the ratios are. But I want to guess, and I want to hope, and I want to dream that the more you ask, the more you get, is you'll get more than the rejection. And what I love about rejection, I love that rejection makes space. It's liberating. It releases you from something that might not be a good fit, right? If my girlfriend had said, okay, I'm going to go be with my ex, that's painful. That's devastating. It's the last thing I would have wanted to hear, but it would have been clear. I would have known. There would have been a big void in my life that would have been super painful, and eventually something else would have come in. I really love rejection. And I also, I want you to know that for the most part, when people reject a request, they're rejecting the request, not you as a person. And that might feel hard when you're asking for a relationship. They say no, but they're really just saying no to a relationship with you. They're not saying you're not a good person. They're not saying, I mean, they might be saying I don't love you, but for the most part, they're not denigrating your self-worth, your value as a person. And it's hard, I know, but I'd rather know than live in ambiguity. And when you don't ask, you live in ambiguity. You really do. So really quickly, if you don't know what your needs are, join the club. And there's a great tool called the NVC Needs Inventory, Nonviolent Communication. Robin, you're familiar with some of this stuff. And these are all very familiar needs, right? If we look at this list is not exhaustive, but appreciation, communication, closeness, community, security, presence, challenge, clarity, order, movement, safety, shelter, right? There are tools available, and I'll drop this link in the chat right now so that you can have access to this, that can inform what some of your needs are. Because if you don't know what the need is, you're going to have a really hard time making a request for it. It's going to be really hard for you to come up with the language if you don't know what you're asking for. Now, I'm guessing a lot of you said fear, which leads me to believe that you do have an idea of what that need is. And one quick tool, if you're not really sure, is to just ask yourself, when I feel blank, I need blank. That's it. When I feel blank, I need blank. When I feel anxiety, I need reassurance. When I feel fear, I need security. When I feel disconnection, I need connection. Anxiety is a really important one to listen to because it can often inform what we need. When I feel this, I need this. So the problem with this is that what you need, you don't share that common meaning with somebody, right? So I did a course on getting your needs met, and this is a word cloud of the most common needs that came up in the course, right? Intimacy, understanding, affection, communication, safety, security, appreciation. The problem is that I don't know what intimacy means to you. Your partner or your family member doesn't know what affection means to you. So what we want to do here is to identify an action item, right? So when you say that you want more affection, what does that mean for you? More cuddles, more sex, a good morning kiss, a hug when you come home from work? When you say you want more intimacy, what does that mean for you? Slower, softer lovemaking, eye gazing, meditating together, sharing feelings more vulnerably? When you say you want more communication, what does that mean? A daily check-in, a 30-minute video call on Wednesdays, a long walk on Sundays without our telephones? When you say you want more sex, what does that mean? 30 minutes of penetrative sex twice a week? Or taking it, once a month, taking some time to explore sensual massage or some other form of intimate contact like taking baths or a tantric practice? So when you have a need, it's not obvious how people can meet that need if you don't get specific about the action item, right? When you say, I need sex, you're presenting them with a problem. But when you're saying, I'd love to spend 30 minutes giving each other sensual massages on Sunday, you're presenting them with a solution. Something that is easy to meet, that is actionable, that doesn't even talk about the need. You're not saying, I need more sex. You're saying, I'd love to spend more time with you being intimate. You're not saying, I need you to text me more. You're saying, I'd love to receive a good night text on days where we don't talk. So an exercise that we're not going to do together because we don't have time, but I just want to share this with you, and you'll have access to these slides, is my need for blank can be met by blank. My need for space can be met by having 45 minutes to myself after work before I connect with you. My need for touch can be met by spending 30 minutes before bed cuddling instead of watching Netflix. My need for safety can be met by not offering me unsolicited advice when I'm sharing something that I'm struggling with. My need for clarity can be met by having you tell me what you're looking for in a relationship and how you feel about me. Do you see the impact? Do you see the difference between asking for a need, but then also finding an action item that makes it easy for people to win? Let me get a thumbs up if you're still with me. Are you still with me? I know I'm jamming through this. I'm so pumped, and I love this stuff. All right, we're going to do something interesting here. I want you to listen to this. Right? Look at the screen. You're already looking at the screen, but listen to this. And feel what comes up when I tell you this. I need you to slow down during sex. I need more affection from you. I need space from you this weekend. I need more effort from you around the house. I need to know what we are. I need to see you more. I need you to spend more time with me. How does that feel? How does that feel in your body to receive that? Too much. Pressure. Needy. Demanding. Defensive. Demanding. Controlling. Intense. Yeah. Someone says good because it means I can work on the relationship, which is great. Not all these tools will evoke the same feelings in people. And sometimes this is how we communicate our needs. I need you to do this. Need you to show up. And this makes people so defensive. They feel like they're already losing. And then they feel like they have to defend themselves. I do plenty around the house. We have plenty of sex. What are you talking about? We see each other so much. It's not a good strategy if you want them to meet your needs. And the beauty about what I'm going to show you is that you don't even have to tell them what the need is. You just have to make the request for the action item that's going to meet the need. Now feel this in your body. I'd love to go on a walk alone tonight. I'd love to see you a few more times this week. I'd love to have you listen rather than offer suggestions. I'd love to know how you feel about me. Would you be willing to share a few things that you love about me? Can you commit to doing the dishes twice this week? I'd appreciate it if you could slow down when we first start making love. It would make me so happy if you could rub my feet tonight while we watch Bridgerton. How does that feel? How does that feel in your body? Good. Conversational, specific, an opening, warm, inviting. Good, except for the Bridgerton part. I get it's not for everybody. Open, sweet, soft. I'd love to go on a walk alone tonight. Is you making a request for a need for space? I'd love to see you a few more times as you making a request for connection. How you feel about me is clarity. Doing the dishes is effort. Telling me what you love about me is reassurance, security, clarity. This is it. This is this is the whole thing. I'm going to share this just so that you can see what it looks like. I would love it if, and then you make a request for specific action. Can you commit to? I'd appreciate it if you could. It would make me so happy. I use this all the time. All the time. And here's the thing about the I'd love it, I'd love to go on, or I'd love it if you. It's not even a question. It's an expression of interest. But most people will receive it as a direct question. It's fascinating. It is fascinating that you can say, I'd love to go on a walk alone tonight, and they know that you're asking to go on a walk alone tonight. And this is where it comes back to your loved ones want to meet your needs. When they're put in this language, it is so much easier for them to say yes to. You are totally setting them up for success in a way that it's probably never ever been done. You are setting them up for success. So this is level one. This is it. You can plug literally anything into this. Hey, I'd love if we could schedule that meeting that we've been talking about. You can do this for work. Hey, I'd love to, instead of going to mass, spend time with you after the religious services because I don't like mass. This is an example that came up today. You can plug anything into this as long as you identify the action item. And sometimes some people will think and have said that it's a little intense to say, I'd love to. You could say, I'd like to. Are you open to? Are you willing to? Can you commit to? Level 2. This is level 1, and this works. You don't need level 2, but level 2 is leveling up your request by sharing the impact, the importance, or giving reassurance. I feel more connected and safer when we communicate every day. I know that's not something that everyone is comfortable with, but I'm curious if you're willing to check in with me by phone or text every day, right? We're sharing the impact of the request. I'd love it if you gave me a big hug when I come home. I'm usually pretty stressed when I come home from work. Getting a big hug from you really calms me down and helps me land. You're sharing the importance of what that action item will bring to you. Or share reassurance. I'd love for you to listen rather than offer suggestions. You give great suggestions, and when I need them, I love them. But what I want more than suggestions is knowing that you're here to listen and hold space for me. This is how you can level up a request, by sharing the impact, the importance, or give reassurance. More loving words, why this is important to you, how this is going to affect you. You will have these slides, you can use them, you can adapt them to work for your situation. Sharing context is important. It really is. It softens the request. It helps them understand where you're coming from. How do these feel? Are they clear and loving? Are they easy? Can you see yourself doing this? I'm going to show you a couple of these. Easy. Open and honest. That's what we want. Let me just show you a couple of these. I've been feeling a bit insecure these days, and while this is hard for me to ask for, right? You're showing vulnerability and courage. I'm going to do it anyways. Would you be willing to share with me a few things that you love about me? This is incredibly powerful. Being able to ask for reassurance when you're feeling anxious is a beautiful practice. I do this when I'm not feeling so great about myself. I'll ask my friends or I'll ask my girlfriend. Share something that you love about me. What do you love about this relationship? And then just bask in their reassurance, because for the most part, people are able to do that when you ask them. Let's do a couple more so you can see what they look like. This is hard to ask for. I love having sex with you, and I also love how excited you get to be with me. This is maybe someone that likes to speed through sex. It takes me longer to get aroused than you do, so I'd appreciate it if you could slow down when we first start making love. That's something you can do. This is hard to ask for. But if you don't ask for this, there's no way that they will know, that they will intuit, that they will be able to guess that you need them to slow down. It's just not going to happen. It's important for me to date people who want what I want so that we're both on the same page. I'm not available for anything casual. I'm looking for a relationship. That doesn't mean I'm going to rush into it, but that's what I'm looking for. I'd love it if you shared with me what you're looking for. I'm going to share with you the 3-part invite, and then we're going to wrap it up. The 3-part invite is a modification to this that includes a buy-in, a request, and an out. It's so simple. And this is really nice because it's nice to give people an out sometimes because you don't want them to feel pressured to meet your need. We don't want them to meet your need if it goes against what they want. We don't want to make them meet your needs. We want to invite them to. And sometimes giving them an out releases the pressure to meet your need. If this is something that's negotiable, right? When there's a non-negotiable, you don't give an out. You ask for what you want, and then if they're not able to give it to you, then you have some options that we're going to discuss in the Q&A. This is the 3-part invite. Super simple. Don't make this any more complicated than it has to be. Get the buy-in. If you're up for it, make the ask. I'd love to play Frisbee with you, give an out. And if that's not something you want, I understand. It's really that simple. If you're available and single and interested, I'd love to take you out to dinner. And if you're not up for it, no worries. If you'd like to, I'd love to talk about our relationship. And if you're not ready, that's okay. How does the out feel? If it's not something you want, I get it. If you're not up for it, no worries. And if you're not ready, that's okay. No pressure. Kind. It's nice to have an out, especially if you're scared. It's nice to be able to give like a little release valve for the pressure. I'll show you 2 of these and then we'll wrap it up and answer some questions. If you're available, I'd love to schedule a meeting for us to discuss how we might be able to do business together. And if you're not up for it, I get it. If you're single, available, and up for it, I'd love to go on a date with you. And if you're not available for that, I get it. If you've got the space for it, I'd love for us to sit down and talk about some feelings that have been coming up for me. I'd love to vent for a bit, hold space. And if you're not up for it, that's okay. I've got someone else I can ask. That's what a 3-part invite looks like. Super clear, simple. I don't want you to get lost in this and be like, oh, he said do this, there's a level 1, level 2. Let the feelings come up, identify what the action item is, and then make a request for it. So this is what putting it all together looks like. You can't ask for what you want unless you muster up some courage, unless you find or trust that you're not too needy and that you are worthy and that it's worth asking for what you want. You find the action item, get clear about how someone can meet your need, make it easy for them to win. And then use any of the request stems that we learned today. I'd love it if, I'd like it if, can you commit to, are you willing to, if you're up for it. And then ask for what you need in a clear, loving, direct way. And then level up your ask by sharing the impact, the importance, or by offering reassurance. This is what it looks like. This is what making clear, loving requests looks like. And I hope that you muster up the courage that you need to have these conversations, because these conversations can make a good relationship great. Sometimes all that's missing from a great relationship is the courage to ask for what you want. And I hope that now you have more tools to be able to do that. That's it, Robin.
That's fantastic, Shaun. I wanted to ask some questions that came in through the chat while you were talking. The first question is, are there situations when it's helpful to share the need as well as presenting a solution action item.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's totally fine to say, us communicating more will meet my need for more security. I think it's totally valid if you want to go there. I haven't ever really felt the need to do that unless we're much farther into the conversation and we're starting to talk about compromise and brainstorming how our conflicting needs might be able to meet. And then I'll talk about, I have this need because growing up, my parents never apologized. And so subconsciously, I'm looking for you to apologize in a way that my parents never did, which will meet my need for security. And that's sort of a conversation that might come down the road, but it's totally valid to highlight or share with them how that's going to meet your need. I think it's totally cool. I just don't want people to get lost in how are they going to make that easy to meet? How are they going to make that concise? I think we can really easily kind of overthink or overanalyze how to have these conversations. And that often is a barrier to having the conversation, wanting to get it just right.
Mm-hmm. So what happens if the person you're asking for reassurance does not have words? They're not in tune with themselves.
So you're asking for reassurance and the person's not able to give it to you?
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. That's really, really tough. Reassurance is also hard to ask for. And if you're not used to talking about that, it's going to be hard for them to do it. So ideally, they'll be able to kind of check in with themselves about how they feel about the relationship and be able to share that. And I want to recognize how vulnerable that is, how courageous it is. And I don't think we're quite there yet as a species to be able to have these kinds of conversations over and over again, and to be able to share reassurance, to be able to tap into our emotions. I mean, we're here doing this work, right? So most of us that are here doing this work are able to do that. There are a lot of people that are not doing this work. And it's going to be really hard for them to do that. And they might not be able to. In which case, you have three options. You can get creative about how you're going to get that need met, right? How else can they show you that they love you, right? We can even go to love languages. Okay, they're not a words of appreciation kind of person. They're an acts of service. So can I accept the fact that my partner isn't really good at telling me how they love me, but they do show me by whatever they do, cooking dinner, taking care of the house, being thoughtful, anticipating some of my other needs, and understanding that that's them trying their best to meet your needs. The other option is that you accept the fact that your need is not going to be met in this specific way by this specific person. And that's empowering. It's not settling. Settling is, this is the best that I can get, and so I'm just going to settle for this. Accepting is an empowered position. This is not the way I would like it to be, and I'm choosing to stay in this moment because my relationship, or whatever this relationship is, brings more to me than it takes from me, right? If they're loving, they show up, they want the same thing for you, they're a great parent, they're a great partner, but their texting sucks, I wouldn't throw them out completely. I might put my need for healthy, consistent text on the back burner for a little bit and revisit that conversation at another point. And then if the need is non-negotiable, if we're really talking about a deal breaker, you need reassurance. Leaving is always an option, but it's the third option. Actually, before leaving, I would actually put another one in there. Go and explore your need for reassurance with a trained mental health professional. Because sometimes some of these needs are inside jobs, right? If you struggle with self-worth, no amount of reassurance from another person is ever going to fill that hole. It's not. You'll be going to these people forever trying to get reassurance, and they'll give it to you, and it's just not going to do the job because you have some core needs on around self-esteem, self-love, and self-worth that need to be explored and healed before those reassurances can work. And sometimes that salve is something that only you can give yourself, unfortunately.
I'm going to ask a question from someone in the summit from Long Island, New York, asking, I've had a strained relationship with my father. He wasn't there for me as a youngster at all, even though he lived right down the street. I feel hurt by him, but open to a relationship. I've tried to develop a relationship, explaining how I need him to show up for me, to no avail. No initiation on his part, though he is apologetic. I obviously have a need to be loved by him. I don't blame or shame him. I just want a fresh start. The excuses he has are never ending. What happens when clearly expressed needs fall on deaf ears? What do you do with a need that hasn't been met by someone you love dearly?
You get creative about how that need can be met elsewhere. You accept that that need will never be met, and you leave slash transform the relationship. So a great example of this is going to the hardware store for bread, right? You go to the hardware store to buy bread, and the cashier looks at you like, yo, we don't have bread here. We don't sell bread. And you're like, oh, everyone's disappointed. You're disappointed because you wanted bread. They're disappointed because they can't give you what you need, because that's not what they do there. And then the next day you go again and again and again, and you're disappointed over and over and over again, because hope springs eternal. Hope springs eternal. I can relate to this question deeply because I have gone to the hardware store for bread so many times, hoping that eventually they're going to give me what I need. And they just can't, because that's not what they do. And it is deeply saddening in any relationship, especially a parental one or a loving, committed one or a long-term friendship, when someone just can't give you what you need. And it's also disappointing for the other person because they feel like a failure. They know what you're asking for, they just can't give it to you. And that's a really hard situation to be in. But I would rather accept the fact that this isn't a person that I can go to for love. They're not able to give it to me in the way that I want it. And so I'm going to build a big, 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 beautiful, loving life with other people. And those other people together will be able to come and give me the love that I never got from my father. This is a tough one, for sure.
Very tough. That was such a beautiful answer, Shaun. Savannah in New York is asking how to have a conversation with someone you're dating about how their tone can feel condescending at times and their energy feels a bit controlling without hurting their feelings.
What is the obsession about not hurting other people's feelings? That is not your job. Your job is not to protect other people's feelings. Your job is to use clear, loving language for sure, and to not create chaos and pain unnecessarily. But protecting others' feelings is not your job. Because when you do that, you actually assume how they're gonna feel, right? Having a conversation about your condescending tone and how your energy feels controlling, if I bring that up, I assume that your feelings will be hurt, which is a bit presumptuous. It's a bit presumptuous. You don't actually know how they're going to feel. And your job isn't to protect other people. It's to speak your truth in a clear, loving way. Because sometimes, often, probably always, they need to have that experience to learn. Maybe they need to have their feelings hurt a little bit. It's okay to have hurt feelings. It's part of being human. You know, Bob Ross there's a little meme, Bob Ross, he says, you can't have the light without the dark. And then he goes, you know, and I'm going through a bit of a dark stage these days. I'm waiting for the light. And you can't always have joy, bliss, exuberance, orgasmic feelings. You're going to be disappointed. You're going to be sad. You're going to be hurt. It's just part of the human experience. So let's not try to put kid gloves on everything, and instead try to have conversations that are honest as possible. And a conversation like this might be like, hey, I need to share something with you that is incredibly hard for me to share. I'm actually really scared of hurting your feelings, but it's important for me to do that. Sometimes when we talk, your tone to me feels condescending. I don't actually know if it's condescending, but that's how it feels to me. And also sometimes I feel controlled by you, and I don't want to feel controlled by you. Are you open to having a conversation about this? Because here's the truth: I like you, I want to keep dating you, and these little things are kind of getting in the way of me feeling super excited to date you, and I'd love to sit down and talk about it. That is sort of how I would approach that. You noticed I put a lot of like some reassurance for the future, the importance. I kind of like packed it to make sure that they understand that I don't want to leave. I actually love our connection. There's just some things that don't feel right.
Mhm. If you're a new step parent, how do you establish a healthy relationship dynamic where you can build a bond, but also set boundaries with a teen, especially if the teen is highly sensitive because of challenged relationship with their biological mom?
I'm going to be fully honest with you. I'm not a parent. I'm not qualified to answer that question.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Good.
think there's like parenting clubs and
Yes.
networks and books and like tap your network, but like I I don't feel comfortable answering.
I think the tools you're teaching us can be applied, Shaun, with any relationship, right? And it's using the kindness that comes through when you're asking, when you're making a request, right? All these tools that you're teaching us can be applied to, hopefully, to this question that just came through.
Totally, absolutely, and also like parenting and step parenting, like there are some dynamics there that are very complex,
Yeah.
very, very complex, and so I wouldn't want to like give a script that might not, you know, that might not be as helpful as I want it to be.
Yeah. So the next question is, do you have advice for people who prefer to have heavy conversations over text or email? Sometimes I prefer to be able to think about my responses or not have all of my emotional reactions visible. But all the advice is that hard conversations should happen in person. Is it ever okay to request that certain conversations happen over chat or even email?
All the advice is that for a reason. There's something really beautiful about being able to see the person and especially touch the person. You can co-soothe each other. You can calm each other's nervous systems down. You can attune to each other. And I also really understand some people wanting to do it over text or email because they feel like their emotions aren't controlling them. They're not at the mercy of their emotions. Because some of these conversations, once they go down a rabbit hole, it's really easy to kind of lose the love. It's easy to lose the love when people start feeling defensive or attacked, and then, well, then you said this, but, you know, then they say, well, you never make an effort. And yeah, I made an effort yesterday. So I understand the tendency to want to have these conversations over text or over email. I have some family members who aren't able to have intimate conversations in person, and so they have to happen over email. I would invite the person to write a letter and to read the letter out loud. If they don't want to lose their train of thought, just say, hey, this is awkward, but I am not super comfortable doing this live, but I think it's actually good for us to do so. So I wrote something out and I just want to read it to you. Are you okay with that? Because that can be a beautiful tool as well. Um, it's like old school letter writing meets new school technology. Um, I I also really dislike having any sort of sensitive, heavy, potentially emotional conversation over text. I think text, you lose the tone. You lose the tone and you read into things, and the timing is asynchronous, and it just doesn't lend itself well to the connection that we're really wanting to bring to these conversations.
The next question is actually about texting. So I'm in a new relationship that seems to have good verbal communication. We both have kids, and so time together is limited. We rely on texting to stay connected in the weeks with kids. How do I properly voice my concerns? I'm feeling quite disconnected in those times. His texting, quite frankly, is terrible. He has one word answers and the same, how are you? Text 3 times a day, which I believe he's asking to show he cares and try to stay connected. He goes hours without a reply to my questions and simply replies with, how are you?
This is super common. I think people have different expectations around texting and how to stay connected during texting. And this is hard to answer. Yeah, you can always have a conversation. Hey, I love our relationship. I love our verbal communication. And I'm noticing that I don't feel as connected to you over text. And I'm wondering if that's something that you'd like to talk about. Right. So I would save this conversation for in person when the verbal communication is good, and share why texting, staying in contact over text is important to you, and how he might be able to improve, right? By being a little bit more complete in his answers, and maybe not asking, how are you, as the full text, right? So that's one option, which is a totally valid option if you want to go there. The other option is, can you accept the fact that this guy just sucks at texting, right? We both have kids. We like each other. There's good verbal communication. Like, can you take the whole package and then look at texting and weigh it with the whole relationship and the person? How important is it really? It might be very important. It might be actually less important than you think. That's another option. And then the third is also, this is hard to say, explore your relationship to texting. Why is it important that he replies in less than a few hours? Yeah, we're on our phones a lot, but just because I'm on my phone doesn't mean I'm present to reply to you. Because sometimes a reply means a conversation that I'm not ready to have. Sometimes I get a text message, I read it, I analyze it, I go, I'm gonna reply to that later, because I want to be present for the reply and I'm in my day. I'm not somebody who needs to be in contact every day. Some people really do. So it's up to you to figure out, how important is texting to you? What importance do you give it? How does it make you feel? Why is it a source of reassurance for you? What need is it meeting? These are all questions that you can ask yourself when you're kind of figuring out how important this is to the relationship as a whole.
Shaun, are we good for time? We've got 2 more questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So we've had a few people ask this question. How do we get clear on what you need versus what you want? Sometimes it feels like my needs are just wants that I can do without, and maybe they are frivolous. But I also had a question come through on the chat about distinguishing, really, what is the difference, between needs and wants?
I'll try to break it down really easily. I look at it in 3 buckets. You've got your absolute must-haves. These are deal breakers. You have your very important to my happiness and my fulfillment in life and this relationship. These are your needs. And you have your nice to haves. These are your wants and desires. And it's kind of a pyramid, right? You get your deal breakers, your requirements, your must-haves taken care of. Because without that, you'll never feel safe. You'll always be struggling for more reassurance, more connection, more time, more something, if your requirements aren't met. Safety, security, connection, right? So you build your pyramid. The next is your needs. You're very important. It's very important that we connect sexually once a week. It's very important that you speak up for me when your brother is being mean at dinner, right? Some of these are your needs. These are very important. And then at the tippy top is your nice to haves. Your nice to haves is like, it's the cherry on top of the sundae. But without the ice cream and without the whipped cream, you can't just not, there's just putting a cherry in a bowl, right? So also, once you start making these requests, people will say no to you. And then you can sit with the disappointment and the feeling. How does this feel in my body? And then you can ask yourself, how important is this? How crucial is this to the development of this relationship? Is it a nice to have, or is this actually something that's really important? It's really important to me that you don't cut me off when I'm talking about what's coming up for me. That's really important. Some people, they don't care if you cut them off. They're just cutting each other off because everybody's needs they are unique to you and to your relationship. And you might feel very anxious in one relationship because a lot of your unmet needs, a lot of your core needs are going unmet. And so you're in a heightened state of anxiety. And so you're constantly trying to get those needs met and they're not met. And then in another relationship, you'll have a solid base of love and commitment and safety. And all those other things just become bonuses. They become less important when your core needs are met. So that's how I'd answer that. When in doubt, just ask for the thing. That's TLDR, just when in doubt, just ask for it, see what happens.
Okay, I love that. Okay, the last question is, my partner has a lot of trauma in their past and often tells me that what they need to feel safe is for me to stop what I'm doing and pay attention to them, or otherwise cater to them. I recently had to get off a Zoom call where I was playing games with my friends because my partner was feeling anxious and wanted me to hang out with them. Sometimes I just want to say no. Where is the line between being a bad partner and just holding on to my own boundaries?
Just sometimes we all need to say no. We all need to say no in a loving way. So it's not about being a bad partner, right? Taking care of yourself is not being a bad partner, right? The famous oxygen mask. You put it on yourself before you put it on the kid. And we don't apologize for putting it on ourselves first. We take care of ourselves so that we can show up for others. I think it's important to have compassion and to show empathy and understanding about how someone's feeling and hold a boundary. Right? Explain to them that while you'd love to be there for them when they're feeling anxious, you also have needs to care for yourself. Reassure them that you're not going anywhere, but that sometimes you're not going to be available to soothe them until later. And later, when I'm done playing games, we can hang out. We can't meet everybody's needs, just like they can't meet ours. It's unreasonable for us to expect to drop everything to meet somebody's need, especially if it comes up over and over again. So I think this is about setting, ground rules or a blueprint for what you're going to do in the future when this comes up again. Hey, when you're feeling anxious, please come to me and let me know. I'm not always going to be available to soothe you, but I promise that I'll come back to you when I'm done or when I'm feeling available. This is tough. This is super tough because we obviously don't want our loved ones to like spin out. And also we can't really prevent that from happening. We're not always going to be there for them, right? Sometimes you might be spinning out and you want to call your partner and they're in a business meeting. They're just not going to answer, which means that you have to have tools, or they have to have tools to self-soothe when you can't co-soothe. And I just want to be clear here, co-soothing, when someone else soothes you, feels amazing. It's so good. It's way better, I think. Way better than self-soothing. Self-soothing is hard. It takes time. It's not as impactful, but also it's required. We really need to be able to self-soothe because other people aren't always going to be available to tend to all of our needs. So it's not about being a bad partner at all. It's actually about being a better partner by showing up for yourself so that you can show up for others.
I think that is that's a beautiful close to this evening. And Shaun, I can't thank you enough for tonight. I was while you were speaking, and I'm taking all of this in, and I'm going to be rewatching this many times to have the lessons ingrained, right? The language, because it is like a new language. It's a new way of thinking in our communication, but it's just so incredibly valuable. And what I was really reflecting on is why I started this business, this Real Love Ready, the summits, is so that we can have practical, actionable tools and guidance that we can implement in our lives. And I think this whole hour was so full of just immeasurable tools. So thank you so much, Shaun.
It's my pleasure. I love talking about needs. I love talking about communication. And I also want people to like build the kind of love life and the kind of relationships that they're proud of, right? Build the life of your dreams and do it by asking for what you want.
So tell us right now what you are working on. How can we continue to learn from you and follow you? And I know your podcast is so fantastic. I love it. And the story behind your podcast is I know that's a long story, but it's so great how you started it. So maybe just tell us what is the best ways for us to continue learning from you?
Podcast, The Love Drive, my website, The Love Drive, Instagram, The Love Drive, Google that. I'm working on a new website. I'm also working on a book proposal. None of those are going to be out soon. So Instagram, the podcast, and my website are the best ways. I've got 6 courses that are available for download on healthy communication, emotional availability, getting your needs met, confidence course, and then I'll be probably coming out with 2 or 3 more live courses this year. I try to do 5 to 6 live courses every year, so they're every other month. Follow me on Instagram. That's the best way to learn about my work. That's where I'm most active.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to close us off with a blessing with your words and your sentiments and your wisdom. So may we make it easy for people to meet our needs by being clear on what is the behavior that I am asking for you to exhibit so that I can feel safe. May we find a way to ask for the behavior modifications we seek from another in a way that is kind and non-threatening. May we communicate our needs in the form of requests rather than demands. When we do this, we're more likely to feel seen, safe, and connected. And for those of you dating, may you remember Shaun's Goldilocks principle of dating. For the right person, you will be just right. And there is more than one right person. There are a lot of people you can be in a successful, fulfilling relationship with. And for those people, you will be just right, which means you do not need to change who you are to be more pleasing or appealing to more people. Be your beautiful self. And may we live a big, bold, beautiful life, one that will require some serious courage and self-esteem, and to know that we all truly deserve it. So thank you, Shaun Galanos, for this beautiful hour.
Thank you to everybody for being here and turning your cameras on. It means so much to me. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Bye, everybody.